The study session of the Aurora City Council for Monday, November 4, 2024 is called to order. Would the clerk please read the rules?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen. Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Hancock. Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Medina. Councilmember Mario.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Very well. Mayor's report. Excuse me. Mayor's report I've discussed with Councilmember Murillo and Councilmember Coombs, and the names need to be changed on the Laura redevelopment plan, but I've discussed with them the resolution and moving it to the next study session. Is there any objection? Seeing none, it will be moved. Are there any issue updates? Let's see, consent calendar, item number 2A through 2A through 2V. Is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward, number 2A through 2V? Seeing none, the consent calendar will move forward, item number 2A to 2V. Item number 3A, 2024 to 2025, snow and ice control plan presentation. Mark Tamburo, Street Operations Manager of Public Works, Michelle Gardner, Senior Assistant City Attorney. Floor is yours.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to the council members. My name is Mark Tamburo. I am the Street Operations Manager. I'd like to recognize Heath Walter, the Street Operations Project Manager, to help put this presentation together. So we're here to talk about the snow and ice control plan. Not a moment too soon. We do have some weather on the way this week. So we're going to go through the 23-24 snow summary and the 24-25 snow and ice control plan. We're also going to discuss some residential snow plowing options, weather forecasting tools, and at the end, there will be time for questions. This is an informational presentation. So the city's snow plan goal is public safety, and it's designed to ensure that the city's emergency services remain functioning at all times during a snow event. City of Aurora provides snow removal equipment and staffing levels based on the most common types of winter storms that occur in our area, and we have more than 90 pieces of equipment to aid us with snow removals throughout the city. Plan focuses on arterial and collector streets, secondary and residential through streets, and rural and outlying streets. We use liquid and granule de-icers in tandem with equipment to clear our city streets. This slide is going to go ahead and break down the categories of storm. Going from left to right, you'll see category 1 through 4, and it starts out at a trace to 2 inches, 2 to 6, 6 to 12, and then more than 12 inches. In the middle, in the blue section, it talks about historic storms. You can see that category 1 and 2 storms make up a large percentage, and category 3 and 4 storms are a lot less likely here in our area. And that was the case in 23-24 with 9 category 1, 2 category 2s, 5 category 3s, and we did not have any category 4 storms. This is a picture of our standard plow formation. Couple quick things to note here. We do plow in a formation for a reason. It is a very efficient way to clear our city streets. Some things to note for the motorists: they do need to stay back 50 feet from our vehicles, and they do need to keep from going in between our plow trucks. That is for their safety as well as the safety of our plow drivers. This slide breaks down our prioritization of routes. You'll see that our priority 1 red routes, for our arterials, we have 926 lane miles. Priority 2 are our blue routes with 387. Those are going to be where our schools and hospitals are located. Our green priority 3 routes, 306 lane miles, are connector streets. through residentials, and then our priority 4 yellow routes, we got 30 lane miles. And then on the right-hand side, you're gonna once again see the categories of storm 1 through 4 with the corresponding snowfall amounts. And this gives you a little idea of the average storm since 94. Again, you can see that primarily we deal with category 1 and category 2 storms, and then there's an average storms per season on the far right. This slide is going to show the wards of the city of Aurora on the left-hand side and a corresponding map on the right-hand side. This happens to be our south plow route number 7. We have 9 plow routes down south, and we have 8 plow routes up north. And you'll see that the prioritization of routes, they do show up all the different priorities on all of our maps. This just gives a depiction of that on the right-hand side. Our materials that we use are anti-icing and de-icing materials, come in solid and liquid forms. Upper left, you'll see that the tinted area, that's our granular slice, as we call it, and it is covered because it is activated with moisture. And our liquids, Apex and Torch, are siloed, as in the middle upper picture. And then on the bottom right is just a picture of a common streets tanker truck. We do have other pieces of equipment, such as snow blowers. We use that out in our rural areas out in Northeast Aurora. It can be pretty dark and hard to navigate out there. Standard plow truck on the left, and we do have quite a large number of plow trucks. We have a nice fleet of equipment. This breaks down the total lane miles for a total of 1,649, which is a lot to maintain. Just to give you an idea, it's like driving 2-lane blacktop back and forth out to St. Charles, Missouri. It is important to know in terms of staffing that we are supported by our sister departments of water and pros, and we really cannot maintain the roads in the winter rather without their help. And this is to ensure that the city's emergency services are functioning at all times. We also have contractors in place to provide additional resources for the larger snow events when our capacities are exceeded. I do want to mention sidewalk snow removal. Our staffing levels continue to be limited for our primary snow responsibilities, which is to clear our streets, and we continue to rely on the internal resources, as I've already mentioned, for category 2 events and larger. Sidewalk snow is not part of our snow and ice control plan. I do want to cite City Code 126-312, which places that responsibility on the adjacent property owner to remove snow and ice from the sidewalks. At times, it is necessary for street operations to remove snow from the sidewalk. This generally occurs during a higher category 3 and 4 event when there's so much snow on the roadway that we put it on the sidewalk. We then go back and take it on the sidewalk off of the arterials. And it's important to know that that's done during regular shifts in order to maintain fiscal responsibility. I also want to mention ice cutting, which is something that not a lot of municipal government entities offer. We do that here for the city of Aurora. It comes in through Access Aurora, and we prioritize those work orders. Typically, it's on north-facing streets. Supervisors that work for street operations also patrol our city for known trouble spots for ice cutting, and we once again complete that during normal working hours in order to maintain fiscal responsibility. It is important to note 23-24 we removed base ice for 175 miles. So this is a depiction on the right hand side. I've had our GIS folks put together a map. It's a heat map and it's a cluster map to show our Access Aurora tickets how they come in. Basically, they can come in as shoveling requests, ice requests, or other. And so this is just a snapshot in time on the right-hand side, 21 to 23. We had 3,460 requests. Total number since 2013 is 11,687 requests. It is also important to note that no 2 storms are ever alike. So following the bomb cyclone in March 2019, we began exploring a process to allow special districts and establish HOAs to plow public residential streets within their boundaries. There's a pilot program developed for High Plains Metro District via an IGA, which is approved in 21 and has since expired June of 22 to serve the Blackstone neighborhood. In 23, City Council approved Resolution R 2023-106, sponsored by Councilmember Bergen, allowing formal HOAs and special districts to provide snow removal on residential streets within their boundaries by entering into an IGA with the city. So we developed a snow and ice control plan template and IGA to allow the special districts to plow within their boundaries. And we did send out reminder notices about this program in September of this year. So the process is that the HOA metro districts request COA application. They complete the snow removal plan template. City Attorney's Office reviews all those documents, and then the HOA metro district is required to report to the city when their contracted services have been deployed. Currently, we have 2 metro districts taking advantage, Blackstone and South Shore. Weather forecasting is a big part of what we do. We utilize various weather forecasting tools, as you can see here. Primarily, we rely on Skyview and DTN. Folks love the Farmer's Almanac, so what they're saying is a cold average snowfall for us this year. And NOAA is saying that the La Nina pattern expected to dominate the south, see warmer and drier conditions as the north tends to be wetter and colder. Overall, the seasonal temperature outlook for our state looks to be a bit leaning above average, and the seasonal precipitation outlook is leaning below average. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions. Again, this is an informational presentation. Thank you for your time.
Questions of staff? No, great presentation. I really appreciate it. Good to know.
Thank you.
I'm a little disappointed, although good for you about the lower precipitation. I think not good for our water department. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, thanks so much for a great presentation. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Increase equipment fixed asset threshold ordinance. Nancy Wishmeyer, Controller of Finance. Hanoski Hernandez, I'm saying that right. Senior Assistant City Attorney. Please proceed.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Nancy Wishmeyer, City Controller, and this item is to change the fixed asset inventory section of City Code. And the change is due to a recent update that was made to the federal uniform grant guidance that's issued by the Office of Management and Budget. The guidance update increases the capitalization threshold for federally acquired assets from $5,000 to $10,000. And while there's no requirement for the city to increase its threshold, city staff determined that it would make sense for the cities and the federal thresholds to match. So we're proposing that the city's capitalization threshold for equipment and for federally acquired assets be increased to $10,000. So this change from the OMB went into effect on October 1st, but we're proposing that the city's effective date be January 1st of 2025. And this is a prospective change only, so we're not going to go back and change anything that's already on the books. We're not going to write anything off or write anything down. It'll just be for new purchases going forward. Does council have any changes, or I'm sorry, questions about the code change?
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, let's see, this is an action item in the sense that it's a proposed ordinance. Is there any objection from 3B moving forward? Seeing none, thank you for the presentation. Item 3B will move forward.
Thank you.
Item number 3C has been, will be continued to the next study session. And 5A, Excel Energy Update, Councilmember Sundberg.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. As you know, Aurora is uniquely poised for growth into the coming decades. Unlike other cities that are landlocked or don't have water, a major important factor, though, as we attract top industry and top companies, is the ability to have the power to run these places, these new facilities. And in a site selection process, a lot of these top companies are looking for more infrastructure-ready cities. So I wanted to hear from XL about how ready they are to supply us with steady, reliable, affordable energy. So I believe, Laura, you might be able to help with this, and welcome, Holly.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman Sundberg. Thank you for inviting us to do a presentation in front of you all and talk about all of the things that we are working on.
Unknown
for Colorado,
participant is now joining.
and also for the city of Aurora, which we have been spending a lot of time in your community planning and working with the city, many of the developers, a lot of these prospective major customers, and forecasting and working to be more proactive about investing into the distribution, transmission, and generation for Colorado. So we've got a presentation. We can get that pulled up. And I'm also here with our Director of Community Relations, Andrew Holder, and your area manager, Nathan Steele. So they're going to join me in helping me with the presentation. And I'm not sure who's supposed to bring that up, if it's on our side or the city side.
I can go ahead and pull it up for you guys.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Thanks, Laura. And I'll just prompt you if that's okay about moving to the next
Perfect.
slide. Okay,
That works.
great. Okay, if you want to move to the next one.
Holly, can you see that?
I can, yes. Go
Okay.
ahead on the next slide.
Oh, the next one, keep going. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
What slide do you see?
Same one.
Colorado Clean Energy Plan?
No, actually, I still see the first one.
Okay. Huh.
The
Let me
intro, the intro slide. Oh, there we are. It just moved. So this is perfect. Thank you. So just really quickly to refresh everybody about who we are in Colorado. So the red on the map shows our service territory. We serve electric and gas in Colorado, 1.6 million electric customers and 1.5 million natural gas customers. And we continue to hit a 99.98% electric reliability. That is an exception would be a storm or any type of weather event that would cause for us to have an outage. So those are exempt from our scores and not taken into account. So outside of that, we are proud on the 99.98%. Next slide. In 2018, we announced, we were the first to announce a 100% carbon-free electricity by 2050. We were the first utility in the country to announce that in 2018. And forthcoming from that announcement, we also then announced a net zero gas emissions by 2050. And then also our advancement in building out the infrastructure to support Colorado's electric vehicle goals by achieving, enabling 1 in 5 vehicles to be electrified. Or electric, sorry. We are currently on target to meet those goals. We were just recently approved and we are in construction to build the generation to allow for us to be at an 80% carbon reduction emission by 2030. And recently we were approved with a clean heat plan. It was the first in Colorado, first in the country. Andrew will talk a little bit more about it later on in the slides. And we are on target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 25% on our LDC system. And other than that, we continue to think about how we offer great and energy efficient and renewable programs to enable and empower customer choice. Next slide.
Holly, can I pause you for a second? I think there might be an
Yes.
issue with the slide deck. One moment, let me
Okay.
try to. Council members, could you see the slide deck? Yes.
I could, but now it disappeared.
Okay. All right.
There it is.
Okay. Perfect. Sorry, Holly. Okay.
That's okay. No problem. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide. So I mentioned this, the Colorado Clean Energy Plan. This is the plan that we submitted in, crazy enough, March of 21. And it took us close to 2.5, almost 3 years to gain approval for us to build the generation that we forecasted for growth by 2030. And in also meeting the 80% carbon-free emission on the electric system by 2030. Now, as you all know, times are different today than they were a year ago, and times are definitely different than where they were 3 years ago. And so we just recently submitted an additional electric resource plan on October 15th that we call the Just Transition Plan. And this one corrects the course of what we had forecasted through 2030 and adds the additional generation needed on our system to meet this new forecasted growth of data centers, electrification, and EV adoption. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew because he will start out by talking about the future and what we've got planned with the Just Transition Plan. And then Nathan can talk a little bit more about the city of Aurora.
Perfect. Thank you, Holly. I appreciate it. And I think Holly covered, the clean energy plan here really well. Laura, can you go to the next slide here? This is kind of where I want to just spend a moment here, just kind of where we're at in real time. And that is, to Holly's point, we've been working on this trajectory with Xcel Energy here in the state of Colorado since 2018, building out our fleet of infrastructure to create more renewable electrons for our energy grid here in the state of Colorado. This latest filing that we filed here October 15th, we're calling the Just Transition filing. And it's an enhanced version and an electric resource plan that's going to bring on more different generation assets onto our system to meet the increased need of demand here in the state of Colorado. That's being driven by load growth here in the city and county of Arapahoe and Aurora, along the Front Range, and then also, the data centers that Holly kind of alluded to that are really seeing a large spike in energy consumption. So we're going to meet that need with a whole fleet of generation assets. If you look at our energy grid here in the state of Colorado, we peak at about Xcel Energy's grid with 1.6 million electric customers at about 7,200 megawatts. And if you think about that, that's the hottest day in July when everybody's running their air conditioning. With our clean energy plan, we're replacing 7,200 megawatts of that with 6,500 megawatts. This is a lot of numbers, so if I go too fast, just please raise your hand. But 6,500 megawatts is clean renewable energy. And this Just Transition filing is going to get us to 1,400 megawatts. So you can see that we're anticipating a lot of growth in the state of Colorado to bring on these assets onto the system and onto the grid by 2030. The just transition filing, the naming mechanism came because we have two different units in Pueblo and one in Hayden. Those are just transition communities. Both of our coal facilities in both of those communities are due to retire by the end of 2031, and we are looking for replacement generation specifically in those two communities. We're also going to look at, bringing on generation assets along along our transmission assets all over the state of Colorado. So that 1,400 megawatts is going to be distributed around the state. Phase one builds out the model of what we're asking from a capacity standpoint and what we're looking from a different generation style aspect. And then phase two is really where after we got the portfolio accepted by the Public Utilities Commission, is where we will put a solicitation out for bids, and we will get bids into to select generation assets. So it kind of goes in a pronged approach. We're anticipating phase two will happen roughly around June or August of next year. So tail end of quarter three, and then we'll kind of roll into selection of those bids and start getting some steel on the ground. If you can go to the next slide, Laura. And I just want to cover this just real briefly. Like, why is this important? We really want to ensure that we are forecasting the needs that we're going to need on the energy grid and meet our commitments to ensuring that we have carbon-free electricity onto the grid, meet our carbon reduction goals, but ensure that we retain talent. And that's one of the things that I really want to touch on is Xcel Energy has done a phenomenal job. We've retired 16 different coal units over the last 10 to 15 years, and we haven't laid off a single employee. We've been able to upskill those employees that they continue to want to work at Xcel to find them new employment within the company. So as we transition into this cleaner energy fleet, we're also keeping our employees and our communities in mind. So this is being a very thoughtful process, ensuring that we're going to meet our energy demands here in the state of Colorado, but ensuring that our communities and our employees are at the forefront of this transition. Go ahead to the next slide. This is where I really want to, I'm going to turn this over to Nathan Steele. Nathan, as you guys know, he's your area manager here for Xcel Energy for your guys' region, and he can kind of get into the more Aurora specific details of the plans that we're doing in your guys' area.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you all for having me. So as we get into kind of laying out the situation here, I just want to start it off by saying thank you to you guys' staff at Aurora. They've been amazing since I've started this position. I think I have 3 monthly meetings with them, and they have just been incredible to work with as we work on this challenge together. So challenge number 1, state renewable energy goals and moving towards state mandated, electrification, while also simultaneously meeting the capacity demands of one of the fastest growing cities in the state and country, right? So you have this 2-pronged approach where you have to hit these goals. You also have to meet this crazy growth in the city. It's a difficult problem to solve. Another one is obviously the rise of data centers. I probably get a couple calls a week from somebody looking to put in 500 megawatt data center right down the road. I'm sure you all do too. I know Andrew and Holly both do as well. It's been a difficult problem to solve. We'll get into some solutions later on in the deck. And then obviously just look at how fast you all are growing. Another 42% in the next 35 years or so, 25 years. And then another 64% in terms of energy over the course of the next 8 years, right? So it's an incredible amount of growth. We're facing, all the state mandates as well. And we're going to get into some solutions here. Laura, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. So on the distribution system, right, you have the generation, which is where all the electricity gets made. Transmission takes it from there, like a highway. And then distribution is like your neighborhood road system where it comes to your house or your business, whatever, right? So distribution solutions, we worked a long time to pass SB 218 last year, which allowed us to forecast and build on the distribution system without needing to go to the PUC first. So we were able to do that for generation. We were able to do that for transmission. We were not allowed to do that for distribution. PUC wanted to see it come through the legislature. We were able to get that passed working with stakeholders across the state. We're now allowed to build, forecast and build on the distribution system. So On top of that, we developed our integrated system planning department. Many of you know Alice Jackson, I'm sure, the former president of Public Service. She's running that department. They are charged with where do we need to build and what do we need to build to make sure we can accommodate the growth in all of our communities. We have our upcoming, which we talked a little bit about, Holly did, the Colorado Clean Energy Plan and the distribution system planning filing. Those are currently going through the PUC right now. And then we've worked extensively with the folks at Aurora Economic Development to forecast upcoming growth on Aurora's system and help build out that 5-year plan. We can talk a little bit about ISP in this next slide here. And it really is just a more collaborative approach to building out an energy system, right? So in the past, distribution was kind of its own separate animal, and so is transmission generation. ISP really brings all of those together to build an integrated overall system, working with our communities, developers, and economic development partners. That's why it's been so crucial, our work with you all at the city, developers in the region, and then, of course, Aurora Economic Development has kind of been the funnel for all of that information to come into us so we can start to build out this 5-year plan. And this has really been a 6-month process working with ISP. Laura, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. A lot of that is written by engineers for engineers. It'll be in the deck. You'll have access to it. I don't think we need to go too far into those details, but really this has been 6 months working on this. You all are the first community that we have done a plan like this, where we're saying we need to know everything you got coming in the next 5 years, and we'll build the system with you. So we are currently doing quarterly meetings with, next slide. Sorry about that, Laura. This one right here. So first of its kind plan, like I said, we have not done this with any community before, but we are going to work on building 5 new substations, 11 new substation transformers, more than 30 new feeders, just in Aurora. So it's hundreds of millions of dollars, this plan. It's going to take a lot of partnership between ourselves, cities, economic development partners to make sure we do this as smoothly as possible. We just finished up our quarterly meetings with the developer community to talk about siting for these new substations and see who has available land, where we can put the subs. We went through kind of the requirements we need to make sure everything runs smoothly and to get this done as quickly as possible. So that's where we're at in this process right now. In a couple of weeks, I think 2 Fridays from now, we have a meeting, a second meeting with the city staff to start going through the processes we're going to put in place to make sure we get this done as quickly and efficiently as possible. So we'll continue those quarterly meetings pretty much until we get this done. Really, the design part is going to, finding the land, getting the land, and then designing how we're going to build this stuff is what's going to take the longest. And I think once we get all that done, we can move pretty quickly to get this finished. So over the next 5 years, 5 new subs, all these transformers and feeders, it's going to be a lot of work, but we're going to make sure that you all have what you need to continue to grow as you have. And then on the transmission side, this is where our solution comes in for the data centers. So I'm sure you all have heard of Colorado Power Pathways project, all that solar and wind that you see when you drive towards Kansas. The Power Pathways is, I think, 1,000 miles. Andrew knows this way better. He was working on it much more, but about 1,000 miles of transmission lines, a couple new subs, and it's taking all that generation from the Eastern Plains, bringing it into you guys in Aurora and the metro region. So we can go into a little bit of that on the next slide, but serving data centers. This is how we're going to get data centers done more efficiently. We're not going to stress the distribution system. Anybody over 10 megawatts, they're going to be fed off a transmission. It can be a little bit more expensive. It also is going to get done a little quicker, but they do have to sign up for a system impact application study. Anybody calls you and says, I have a 500 megawatt data center I want to put on, down the road, you have my contact information, send them my way. We'll get them set up with the ISP team. They get the study done. Takes about 120 days to figure out the costs and how we're going to serve it, or whether we can serve it or not in that specific location. And then facility study that's going to determine your timeline, costs, how we're going to connect you to the substation and the transmission system. And then obviously it maintains capacity on the distribution system. So we're not running into so many of the problems that we have with this extreme growth, where it has slowed some projects down because we just aren't able to feed the capacity immediately. Next slide, please. And then power pathways, like I said, Andrew's put a lot more work into this than I have. 5,500 megawatts, $2 billion, roughly 600 miles divided into 5 segments. So thank you all. We had unanimous support from Aurora in passing the Aurora part section a couple, 3 weeks ago or so. So thank you all for your support on that. And then I'm going to pass it back now to Andrew to run through a little bit of the natural gas system updates for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. And going through the pathway project, I do want to just give your staff a ton of credit. You know, we needed to get 13 different jurisdictions to give us 1041 land use permits for the Colorado Pathways project. We are currently about 8 of the 13 that we needed. And it was a very streamlined process. So very kudos to the Aurora team for making that simple for us. It's not like that in every jurisdiction, but it was great to partner with you guys. Going into the natural gas update, I just want to cover this real briefly. Laura, if you can go to the next slide. You know, natural gas is going to have a very key role to play as we continue to move forward here in Xcel Energy and serving the community that we do. In the clean energy plan, though we are bringing a ton of renewables onto the system, 6,500 megawatts, like I indicated earlier, 600 megawatts of those are dispatchable natural gas units to ensure that we have the reliability. Colorado is uniquely qualified for the amount of sun and the amount of wind that we have here, but the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. So we have to ensure that we have system reliability. We have stated goals that we are going to be 80% carbon-free generation by 2030. We're on pace to be well over 80%. To get to 2050 is going to be that's going to be a true partnership. And right now, the bridge in the interim is going to be natural gas units to ensure that we have reliability onto the system. There's a couple other things that we just kind of targeted, you know, the San Luis Valley, you know, we're ensuring that we're adding another CT is what we call them, but they're combustion turbines. It's just another engine that we're going to put in our generation plants. We're going to put one in Fort Lupton. We also had a clean heat plan filing, which is another filing that we had in front of the Public Utilities Commission to continue to put strategic investments into the natural gas system to ensure reliability. We are exploring a pipeline of non-pipeline alternatives. One of the great examples of that is the Mountain Energy Project, which is, you know, strategically placed liquid natural gas systems, and then a number of different programs that our community can opt into to help us strategically use the natural gas in that area as most efficiently as possible. And then obviously the 2024 the gas rate case that we are currently filing, that is historically looking at the investments that we've made into the natural gas system and kind of truing that out, because to Nathan's point, historically speaking, our investments into the distribution system hasn't been able to look forward looking. So when we do these rate cases, it's truly like a sure up of what we've invested. So that's one of the other things that we've done to ensure the reliability of our natural gas system. You can go to the next slide, Lauren. And then just to talk on the MPAs, because there's a number of questions that we look at this. You know, part of the package of MPAs is beneficial electrification. If customers continue to, you know, if they want to opt in, we're going to have a number of different programs that they can use to reach their beneficial electrification goals. There's also energy efficiency and demand response. So that's ensuring that we have enough molecules in the pipelines to make sure that we can feed and serve our customers here in the state of Colorado. So it's just a really efficient and different portfolio of programs that our customers can opt into, because it is customer choice. And that's what here at Xcel Energy that we stand behind is customer choice and ensuring that they can use their energy as efficiently as possible. So Laura, you can go to the next slide, and I'm going to turn it back over here to Nathan just briefly to talk on some of our ongoing wildfire mitigation efforts.
So this is the plan we filed in June this year. There's a lot of information here. My favorite part of this is the Pano AI part that we've implemented. So it's AI cameras that we've placed all over the West Slope, from Larimer, Evergreen, all over the place, that detect wildfires before they happen. So, or they detect them very early on. So they see the smoke, they classify it, okay, there's potential wildfire or not, and then we're able to just, it is just very early detection, very, very cool technology. And it's been successful, and we've collaborated a lot with our emergency manager partners across the state to share that data. There's a great graphic if you want to talk about wildfires to send out to your constituents that they can really dive into. And then next slide, please, Laura. So this is the one that most folks have heard about a lot. It's obviously hasn't been too much of an issue in Aurora. So EPSS, Enhanced Power Line Safety Settings, most of the state was on this for a lot of the summer. And what it does is it makes the lines just very sensitive. So anything that hits them, squirrel gets on there, branch falls on them, anything. Normally you would have a momentary outage, maybe some flickering. You probably wouldn't be able to even detect it. But instead, when this is turned on, and it's when you're in a certain amount of settings, right? There's an X amount of fuel on the ground, temperature, wind gusts, all those things that play into a wildfire. That's when you're on EPSS settings, right? So something touches the lines, normally your power is going to come right back on. We have redundancy built into the system. Now it's going to shut the line down immediately. And then we have to send somebody out to figure out what the problem is. And in some places, you all are tier 1, lowest wildfire risk. In some places in tier 3, the lines are so tight, we don't even find a dead animal carcass, like we normally would, because they flip off so quick. So that's EPSS. It's different from PSPS, which you also, I'm sure, have heard of, Public Safety Power Shutoff. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Laura. Thank you. So Public Safety Power Shutoff, you heard about this in the spring when we did this for the first time in company history, in Colorado history. We preemptively shut down power in Sterling Ranch, Evergreen, and parts of Boulder County. And what we didn't do a good job of the first time we did it was the communication aspect. So we did not give everybody the heads up that they needed to properly prepare. First time we did it, it could have been done better. So we've come back now, we've built out this plan, which is 48 to 72 hours in advance. We're going to let your emergency managers know, your city staff know, critical customers, so hospitals, things like that, right? Aurora Water, folks like that. 24 to 48, we're going to continue to update you. And then we're going to let you know, I think, in that time between 24 and 48 hours that we're definitely moving forward with this. We did just run through this in Grand Junction. It went great. 72 hours out, hey, we might do this. We started to get some media out. And then, within that 24 to 48 hour range, all those things that play into a wildfire, right? Wind gusts, fuel on the ground, temperature, humidity, all those things looked like we weren't going to have to do it, and we pulled back. So we have run through this a second time. We almost did go through it, but it was a good test of the communication systems and the practices we built out in collaboration with the emergency managers across the state. And then inside, next slide, please. Inside the wildfire mitigation plan, it's about a little under $2 billion. 85% of that money is going straight to system resiliency. So new poles, improvements, vegetation management, all the things we need to make sure our lines on the distribution system are as safe as possible, right? And then some cool stuff like Pano AI, and then some staff to coordinate with emergency managers, things like that. And then we are going to be working on the maps. I know nobody loves the maps. We're going to get new maps. We're working on new maps. $3 million invested into the maps over the next 2 years, I think. Is that correct? Next 2 years, we're going to invest $3 million. So you're going to get more specific information about your outage, when your power goes up, comes back on, and what the situation is. And that is, PUC, this is the process for it. So submitted the plan. Overall is about 9 months total, 6 to 9 months. Submit the plan, public comment. They're going to come back to us, ask for additional written testimony, either from the public, from us, from partners, from interveners. then they have another hearing, and then eventually a decision. So sometime Q1, Q3, Q2, we should be finding out the final judgment on wildfire mitigation. And do you all have any questions?
Mayor Sundberg.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you get there in terms of having competitive rates in the long run, because you're saying that natural gas is a bridge without some level of nuclear power. And I think there are mature technologies out there in the nuclear industry that have these smaller reactors and are much more cost effective. I wonder if you could speak to that, because I didn't hear anything about nuclear in any of your planning.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We agree that nuclear power is potentially the advanced technology that we're going to need post 2030. So right now, we have an operating agreement with a small modular reactor company where they are manufacturing the SMRs, and we have agreed to learn and operate in partnership with the Federal Renewable Energy Lab and this company so that we can learn how to operate this. We do a great job, 2 best-in-class nuclear plants up in Minnesota. They are part of our overall enterprise carbon-free goal. So we do believe that the reliability, the carbon-free aspect of nuclear is an option. It's an option post-2030. These SMRs have not come online from a commercial standpoint. And so we're hoping that the first one will come on in about 28, 29, and it'll give us a little bit of leeway for us to then plan for that bridge post-2030.
I'm sorry, what date you thought that would, you said, I thought you said 28 and 29.
28 and 29 is when the first small modular reactor is planned to come online and operate. And we are in partnership to help partner in operating it. And then once that one is tested, we can then, the companies can then decide if they want to manufacture and start to dispatch them. But we do believe that it is an option, and it'll get us to the 40 and 50 goal.
Thank you, but I'm surprised it wasn't part of your presentation initially. But,
So,
but I'm glad you're looking at it.
Yeah, so this presentation really focuses through 2030, not post 2030 from a generation standpoint.
Further questions or comments?
Sundberg.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Thank you, Holly and Nathan and Andrew for being here tonight with us. You mentioned strategically the natural gas as a backup, a buffer. You look at countries like Japan and Germany are facing some real serious energy crises. Their green energy has not compensated for the hydrocarbons, and they've had some natural disasters, war, and various things. When you take off the coal power plants, are they dismantled entirely? Are they mothballed for some type of future contingency?
We are in the Just Transition Plan. We have proposed to the PUC that we would like to use the existing properties along with some of the existing infrastructure for that post 2030. We are actually, Andrew mentioned both the Pueblo Comanche Unit 3, which is our large coal unit, and Hayden up in Routt and Craig County. But the one that we actually are retiring as coal and transitioning it to natural gas is our Pawnee plant out in Brush. So we are transitioning that. That is happening from now until I think it's planned to decommission in 28, and we are then transitioning it over to a natural gas plant to meet that 2030 goal. And Councilman Sundberg, you can also see that we continue to add natural gas onto the system, because as we're growing and we're balancing the system between our renewables, we don't have enough storage on our system to allow for us to have the reliability that we need for our customers here in Colorado. And so by adding on that natural gas, it's really just telling us that our system isn't ready. We're not ready yet to eliminate natural gas from the electric system. And we are just going to slowly migrate ourselves potentially off. But at any point, we may get to a point where the technology, it just isn't there yet. It's still too expensive for our customers to ensure that reliability. And we will continue to operate our natural gas until we feel comfortable that we can transition to that advanced technology to allow for us to continue to have that reliability.
Further questions or comments?
Thank you.
Seeing that, I just want to thank you for the presentation. I thank you, Councilmember Sundberg, for bringing this forward. I think it's very helpful to understand how you can scale up given the increasing demand that we have in terms of the growth in the city, particularly the high energy users in the city like data centers. Further questions, comments? Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. And oh, I'm sorry. We have 2025 City Council meeting calendar. Katie Rodriguez, I'm in trouble. City Clerk.
Thanks, Mayor. Katie Rodriguez, City Clerk. This is to set the dates for the 2025 study sessions, workshops, and City Council meetings. There is a proposed schedule in the agenda packet for Council. The charter requires Council to meet at least twice a month. The proposed schedule takes into consideration holidays, conferences, and other events, and the study sessions will be held before Council meetings. So we are wanting to receive direction from Council if this is how they would like to move forward with the 2025 schedule.
Oh, any questions or comments? Seeing none. Silence is consent. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
this will move forward to one of the meetings in December for Council to vote on the calendar.
Okay. And then what is it's a pretty high bar once it's in place to change it. Correct, Katie?
Correct. We would need a yes. According to the council rules, we would need a 2/3 vote of the entire city council to amend this after it is approved.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments on it? If not, okay, then it'll move forward. Thanks, Katie. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other items before the Aurora City Council study session, we will reconvene at 6:30 in the regular meeting of the Aurora City Council. So we are adjourned until 6:30.